On behalf of the Scottish Conservatives, up to 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I just reflect on the fact that this has been a very useful debate, and many of the speeches that have been given have been very thoughtful. Members have clearly thought through the implications of this excellent report, and their conclusions and their thoughts have been much appreciated by me. It's been very difficult in a few minutes to be able to sum up everything that members have said, but I do want to congratulate Ben McPherson and his committee on producing such a fine report. And I thought Ben McPherson struck a number of different significant notes in his opening comments, specifically around the importance of a strategic mapping exercise, which was immediately taken up by the Minister in relation to these particular bodies. But I think there's a wider exercise to be done in terms of the wider public sector bodies, and I know that the Minister is across that. But I also thought it was significant that he talked about parliamentary capacity, because this is a subject that we have debated on a Thursday afternoon before, and I don't feel that we're making very much progress in actually tackling it. And that is when you look at the scale of the work of scrutinising that falls upon this Parliament. We have 129 members. In addition to the bodies that we've been discussing this afternoon, Focus, there are 131 public bodies. Now, that's more than one body per MSP. So the scale of the task of proper scrutiny, frankly, means that when you see the sprawling network of commissions and commissioners and ombudsmen and all these different public bodies, and I think it was interesting that I have this great quote from Ivan McKee, which he knows that I will use on every possible occasion I can. The Minister said on one occasion, nobody knows everything about all the 130-odd public bodies and what they're all doing. I mean, that says it all for me. That does kind of sum up where we are in context. If the Minister feels this way, then I think every other member in this Parliament should feel the same way, and we should resolve on the basis of some of the very good form thought that we've heard this afternoon to actually do something about it. Or will we simply say, oh, this debate and this report is part of some legacy from this session of Parliament that someone else, whoever's sitting in these places in a few months' time, is going to have to pick up and do something with? And I think that would be an abrogation of responsibility. So in the time we've got left, and I know that we have a lot on our plates, we should do something about this. Kenny Gibson highlighted, and he often does when we're not... See, it's very interesting, and Murdo Fraser talked about this, that when we take off these party hats and these rosette colours, and we begin to talk to each other about how we can make our country better, how we can improve its governance, how we can improve this Parliament, how we can improve the processes that we use, it's incredible to discover that regardless of the party, we end up largely agreeing with each other. There's a lesson in this. It's not what the public see, and it's not what the public perceive. But when we set aside the biggest issue that divides us, we actually find a huge element of common ground. And that's why I'm astonished. I astonish myself by reflecting on the fact that probably two of the best speeches that have been given today were given by Lorna Slater. Now, that's probably going to result in two things. One is I will be excommunicated from the Conservative and Unionist Party, and the other is that her status in the Green Party, already somewhat shaky, may indeed be shakier. So I'm being extremely nice to the member, and I'm sorry that she doesn't feel that I am. But I thought that her speech, along with Kenny Gibson's, just, hits the nail on the head. In terms of the quality of work, the quantity of work, the need for deadlines, the need for a clear process, all of it, all the things that Kenny Gibson said about that, I 100% endorse. I wish that would become the culture of our Parliament. And when Lorna Slater says what we need is not all these different bodies and all these different places to go, these signposts to different people, what we need is a Parliament that does its job. And in fact, if the Parliament were to begin to exercise its parliamentary muscles and properly scrutinise and hold the executive to account, the good news for the executive is that they would improve. And by the measurement of many of us in this chamber, they need to improve. And partly the consequence of the performance of any government is the ability of the Parliament that they account to do its job. And on that scale, on that measurement, We don't do a particularly good job, and that's what we keep coming back to. So when Lawrence Slater quotes the example of the New Zealand witness before this committee's inquiry, I think we should sit up and take note. We need a parliament that does its job. Now, I'm recognising I'm quickly running out of time. There were some really good things said by a number of people. I'm going to focus, if I might, a little on what Richard Leonard said, my old sparring partner from decades ago at University of Stirling, because he also reflected on the fact that when we get together in small committees, now I think there's something here that needs to be underlined and capitalised, that when we get together in small committees and we have these short, sharp, time-limited inquiries, we get really good work. I hope that that lesson is not lost on any of us, because I think it's a very important lesson he's shared. And when he talks about the need for accountability, I say hear, hear, and amen. Because he quoted one example, the famous water example, but I would quote the example of the City of Glasgow officials that awarded themselves huge payoffs. To whom do they account? To whom do they account at the end of the day? We have a system that's lacking in accountability. Democratic accountability. So what he said in his characteristic fashion is absolutely correct. Well, look, I think I'm out of time. John Mason said that George Adam had given one of his best speeches without mentioning Paisley. But I actually think that John Mason gave one of his best speeches, because I agree with him. We don't need more bodies, we need less. We need better processes of accountability. We need a change of culture in our public services generally, regardless of the body we look at. We need a zero defects approach.
Mr Kerr, could you please bring your remarks to close? Thank you.
A zero defects approach, so that we can improve what we do in the name of the people of Scotland for the people of Scotland.
Thank you, Mr